Where's the love? Where's the love? It's right here in the heart of the city, man. I'm Silas Grant, and I'm joined with my man.
I'm Tony Lewis Joy. Yeah, we back.
We back, man. We back. It's crazy. First of all, man, shout out to Anwar Kong for
100%.
asking us to think about coming back and doing this thing one more again, man.
Feeling, man. Feel good too, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was like 2011, I think it was, when he first asked us to come on a previous platform that he had, and now we're here, and still at it, still pushing.
100%. You know what's crazy, right? Like, thinking back in that time, I remember, like, for me, Elite DC Radio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the stellar sort of, like, programming he put together, right?
Yeah.
And me not really, he was ahead of his time, is what I'm saying. Like, I look at what the world today and social media, you know what I'm saying, and bloggers and vloggers and, all of this stuff, right? And with his vision back then, over a decade ago, you know what I'm saying, was to, like, I think, he forecasted, like, where we are today. Yeah. And for him to ask us to be a part of that, because then and now, sometimes I think the aesthetic or the profile that we represent, though I think we got range, right? But, you know what I'm saying, being people that positive, people that community focused, at that time, that wouldn't have been inserted in programming that was about nightlife and pop culture.
Right.
And, you get my point. So, again, definitely salute to Anwar, man.
Yeah, for sure. I think back to that period and how we got together and really formed this union around community action, the March for Peace, back in February of 2011. And from there, the second one the following year, and then a series of events, and not just events based, but just day-to-day work in this city that has had an impact not only in the city, but across the country, to be honest with you, right?
Sure.
So, in that 10, 11, 12-year period, so much has changed, and yet, to some degree, there are things that are the same. But I wanted to start the conversation just talking about, from your vantage point, what has changed since like 2012 when we last were doing this on a weekly basis.
Yeah. I mean, for me, personally, right, I got married.
Yeah.
I had 2 kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that. Remember, we used to be having them conversations.
Neither one of us had kids at that time.
Neither one of us had kids. You know what I'm saying? You were married. I wasn't. I couldn't even never see marriage at that point. I mean, for real, like, just, I was in relationships doing, or in a relationship prior to my wife, when we were doing the show. Just talking to you about,
I remember one time we recorded and you came in with like a brand new outfit on I had never seen. Like, it was all Ralph Lauren, right? I remember this, right? You walked in. Like a sweatsuit, it was a scarf, it was a pea coat, the whole 9 yards. And I think Jess had bought that
first month.
Yeah. And that's when I kind of knew. I was like, oh, it's kind of serious.
Yes, you watched that whole even me telling you about the chef, man. It's on right. But I think about that in the context of, like, seriously, bro, like, just our relationship too, like, just us, you know what I'm saying, like, sharpening each other in many ways.
Sure.
And so in terms of that, like growing, but we've been locked in since that period professionally, it's personal for us, but in terms of our partnership and being able to advance causes that's helped, like you said, not only people in the District of Columbia, but people across the country, man. The book came out, right? I was just about to start writing the book during that period, you know what I'm saying? So writing of the book, the publishing of the book, being able to our dual influence on the NEAR Act and just other legislation, DC Natives Day, just unlimited amount of, like, things that we'll be able to reflect and point to that say that we worked in tandem, not only with each other but with others, to help this place be a better place. And those times in that studio, I think really fortified. We already had a strong relationship, but those were also like brainstorming sessions. You know what I'm saying? We had an opportunity to just bump ideas off each other and talk about what we could be doing, what needed to be done in our city, who else we needed to bring here, who else we needed to help and lend our, influence and ideas to. And yeah, man, it's been this last period, 11 years or whatever it's been since Harlem City, it's been the best 11 years of my life though.
So I want to step back for a minute because it's been so long. I think that the audience that may be joining us for future episodes, let's say they are 28, 27, 26. They were children when we first did this, right? So they may not be aware of who we are. So I wanted to give you an opportunity, and then myself as well, to just kind of talk about who we are just real quick so people can get up to speed.
Facts. That's a good point. Who don't know who I am though?
Right.
That's a joke, you I don't know me. But I'm Tony Lewis Jr., 42 years old, from Washington, D.C., lifelong resident. I'm a criminal justice reformer, an activist, an author, a reentry expert, and an advocate for children with incarcerated parents, and someone called me a violence interrupter. Okay. My contributions over the last 23 years has led to policy change, legislative change, and I've had the opportunity and the blessing to be a part of thousands of people's journey to stabilization. And I take great pride in the work that I've been able to do, and the work that has in many ways saved my life, and provided me with purpose. So
sure.
And you, sir?
Yeah, Silas Grant. For me, a big part of who I am is I love to advise leaders, right? Like that's a real sort of like passion of mine, right? People who have a command over large audiences. If I'm afforded the opportunity to be next to them, I like to be able to advise them and help guide them into the right direction. Also a facilitator, a teacher, a thought leader, an equipper. I love equipping people with information to make better decisions. And I also have a passion for the next generation of public leaders. So I want to be able to influence and inspire those young people who want to go out and do public service too. So that's been a big part of my life.
Nah, for real. And you know what I watched, right? I remember we used to talk a lot about how you was the top penner. You know what I'm saying? Like you pen everything. And for laymen and lay women out there, we say that just meaning being able to like identify, skill sets or strengths and, even weaknesses about other people and like knowing people, right? Before you could just Google somebody, right? You had that skill set to be able to mine for information on people and know who people are, know what they did, which I think in turn gave, you sort of that edge when it was time to advise someone in leadership about who they should meet, where they should go about, you know what I mean? But before that even became, you designated that as something that was like what you did it anyway. You know what I mean? And I watched that, right? And it's like, Osai, hey, who was that? Osai, dude, or you know what I'm saying? To be a resource. And me, somebody who, though I'm a, I work in the community and all that, but I wasn't, let me say that, right? I wasn't the person that was the best network, right? And if I didn't know you, I probably ain't say nothing to you.
Right.
Our relationship has helped me grow in that way. You know what I mean? To be able to like expand my horizons somewhat, Heart of the City, being in a position to like, ask people questions and learn about people that came from all different spectrums. I know personally that looking back on that time, I grew a tremendous amount in that time, which obviously afforded me the ability to do things that had I not done that, I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I've done. You know what I mean? Because I was always just so closed off based on, my experiences up to that point.
Sure. One of the things you did back then, and I think it was so far in front of everybody that people kind of brushed it off. You predicted a lot of what was going to happen in D.C. in particular, but I think the plight of Black people across the country, right? You had a documentary back in that period called Sons of Life. And you also, again, in the book, you talked a bit about what was going on during that sort of infancy stage of, mass incarceration, but then the impacts of it as it moved forward in time, right? But talk a bit about, during the period when we were recording previously, the things that you saw happening that maybe others didn't see, and then now that it's here, the impact that it's had.
Yeah, and it's almost crazy, like to talk about some of the stuff that came to fruition that we were trying to head off, right? Like, and really, like you said, the Son of Life movement, which was about raising awareness about children with incarcerated parents. And shout out to Duck, Al, Mike, and KJ.
Yep. Good man.
But that was the backdrop. All that was the DC and nothing thing, like the DC and nothing movement. One part of that was
which is also your movement, which some people may not know either.
Was 100%. I started DC and nothing in 2010, for two reasons. One, to support our local artists, right? Our budding artist community at that time, right? But namely Wale, but it was Fat Trail, Shy Glizzy, Light Show, whoever was either out already. Of course, the go-go scene, everybody was like, hey, support our own. And whoever else came along, right, was to create a mantra and a culture that was about support. Because at the time, it was about, everybody was saying DC don't support his own. Yeah. The other part of DC and nothing, though, on our side, on the community side, was at the time gentrification started to really pick up, right? Obviously not to where it would go, but at that time it was new and it was starting to make its impact and rear its head. And we were like, we DC and nothing, and no resident had more value than the other. And those of us that had been here, our humanity should be recognized, it should be seen, and it should be resources and opportunity for us that had been here, not just for people that was moving here. And a lot of the things that we were talking about then, if we did not do that, right, this place was somewhat of a powder keg, that there was no way that you could put the have and the have-nots right beside each other and have harmony, And so at that time, I think because, we were younger, right? So we were young. A lot of people like, well, who was this young guy saying this and saying that, or pointing out the gaps? I was never a pundit, or didn't try to be, never was a critic, but I was seeing something. I working with the most disadvantaged groups in this city. I was seeing that we were not being connected to all of this progression and resources, right? And so the predictions about the erasure of Native Black people, right, of people continuing to go to prison at alarming rates, people continuing to be kept out of opportunities based on criminal histories and things of that nature. And ultimately, that group of people had children and probably would have more children, right? And so if we did not stabilize that group, how can we expect anything better from those coming behind them? And like what we're seeing today, those are now the people that came behind them. You understand what I'm saying? And, so a lot of that fight is still the same. I think I guess, and this is not about my name, but sometimes when I hear about the DC music industry, the DMV music scene, I don't think my name gets said enough.
Sure.
I was putting out fires. I was squashing beefs. I was bringing people together in the name of DC or nothing. And you ain't necessarily have to be from DC to get that carte blanche, right? It happened, right? And it's not about that, but that's real. Like, it was integral. It was things that people had, a lot of disagreements and they would disdain for each other. And I was like, hey, nah, cut that out. Like, let's come together because it's a bigger picture. I take great pride in knowing that, but more importantly, seeing that it's a generation of people in this city and in the surrounding areas that have grown up with rap like being like real for them. They are making a living. They are participating on a national and international level. You understand what I'm saying?
There are a couple of things I remember about that initial period with DC or Nothing. In particular, you describing what you wanted to see from it. I always remember you talking about not just recording studios here at a certain standard for recording purposes, but also security companies, caterers, right? Transportation.
It's pre-Uber.
Right, pre-Uber, right? So now I look and I see like Kitchen Crate. I see Manifest. I see the museum. I see the Spice Suite, all of which we know personally these people who run these entities, and they've now become destinations for people from out of town when they come to DC. I got to go to the Spice Week. I got to go to the museum and get some clothes, right? I got to go to Manifest and get a haircut and buy a fit. Go to Kitchen Crate and get dinner, right? Whatever it may be, right? And it's just interesting to me that those really landmarks now, right, are that.
Cultural destinations.
They're cultural destinations. And so that was a part of your vision. Let's set up these sort of like a la carte side dishes, so to speak, to the entertainment industry here.
Yeah.
Right? And then those people that are notable come here, spend their money with those businesses, share that they've done that, and then it makes it more valuable for those people too.
And then the other peripheral is that those businesses and other businesses like them, and like we can keep naming, right?
Mm-hmm.
They will also hire local folks.
Yeah.
Right. So that ecosystem gets created, right? That highway to like economic development.
Yeah.
That's really how it works, how we want it to work.
Yeah.
And again, I really feel like what we're building, we're seeing it, man. We're seeing, even in a lot of the plight, we pay a hell of a lot of attention on like people that are like struggling or that are in challenging situations. But we also have been blessed to see a level of Black progression that you may not see other places, and to know that. You said this one time we was talking, like, bro, like, just know, like, you know who in them phones, who in our phone, man, we can pick up the phone and pretty much touch anybody, call anybody, so even the title of this podcast, right? Like, when we say hard, like, we say heart of the city, we mean it. When we say DC or nothing, we mean it. It's not just a term, but the work, the continuous, consistent commitment to serving, to being good people, even in the midst where that ain't always being seen as like, the fly thing. We really caught. We made. And I'm gonna say this because the ain't no humility, or not as much humility in 2023 for me. I'm just being honest. Yeah, because we live in a world that when you don't, right, they won't.
You gotta say.
Yeah, they won't.
It, yeah.
Yeah. But to think about, for real, the level of influence that we've had and how we gave people permission to be good dudes.
Yeah. I mean, at that first March for Peace rally, I think, to my knowledge, and I'm not as far down the no humility track as you are, I'm still a little shy about that, but I will say I don't remember any sort of positive event where that many artists showed up, like real rap artists, go-go artists, right, R&B artists at that event. And
we didn't use that term then, but in today, influencers,
yeah, that came.
Yeah, that was the makeup of this sea of humanity talking about peace. The same thing that translated to whatever it was, a turkey drive or clothing drive, coat drive, toy drive, school supply giveaway, whatever. We took that stuff out of the hands of the pastor or the politician and put it in the hands of us, like in the hands of the streets. You know what I'm saying? Or the hands of the other. That's another thing you just mentioned that. That's how we got weaved into sort of like the creative culture, though. Like, we didn't do anything I guess our activism was our art, if I would have to describe it, right? That was our art. That's what we were. That was our contribution. But what we did was create space, right? You know how many people met? How many people met at our stuff that did not know each other prior?
I know that for a fact. And people that we purposely introduced for the sake of connecting.
And what our events became, or even if it was your event and I came, or if it was my event and you came, I'm speaking, so I mean our in that way.
Right, yeah.
Whether it was together or individually, it became, man, I'm going to that. Not just because we were doing something that was like the right thing. It was because it was fun.
Yeah, that was the place to be.
It was the place to be.
Yeah.
That changed the landscape for a community event. No community event before that. That was like, yeah, I have to do this. I'm going to go here, show my face, and I'm going to roll out. Like, nah, this was events where you came and you served, but you enjoyed it.
But you know what, real quick, let's not say that in past tense because it's still that way though.
100%. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. No, for real. But that set the standard for what would be.
Right.
You know, and also, you know, on that note, you know, I don't care who you were, if you were Wale, Raheem Devon, John Wall, Fred Davis, whoever you were,
So a lot of people forgot about
council member at the time or during, whatever. If you came to something that we did, when you got there, and this is what I think they even appreciated, right? You didn't add all the value. Your people might have thought that, but when they got there, like, everybody gonna grab a box. Yeah, we serve right. You don't just come and show up and just stand on the side.
True.
Like, but what that did, I think, for them and for whoever we were serving, was showing that, like, we all are the same and we all have value, right? And when a person walked in, right, it was walking in Bond 7 or walking in Number 2 Boys Club or walking in Edgewood, which wherever they was, you know what I'm saying? That we were here to do something that was like mutually beneficial.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't think people had that experience prior to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's like we've seen all of the people that kind of come off our tree and sort of say, you know what? They got bit by the bug. You know? They got bit. That's like anything else. I mean, first time a person you know, do something they love or they feel good, they keep doing it. You know, whether it's the first time they went to a Wizards game or a Redskin game or a Commanders game or went to a concert or whatever it is, right? And then they feel like, I gotta do this again. And I feel like as far as serving and being like present for your community, when people have come to our events or just been around us, I think that's what happens to them, you know? And I take great pride in seeing over the years people doing their own version.
Yep. And showing up and watching, you know, from the stands, so to speak, right? Because one thing I used to always laugh at, but it wasn't me laughing because I was making fun of it, but it was just so funny you would say it. Like, this was like your concert. This was like your NBA finals, right? You know what I mean? Like, you in that mode, you know. It was around that same time, I think, when Kanye had mentioned that he was a performance athlete, right?
Right.
And it was like, yeah, I could, you know, I kind of get that. Yeah, I feel it when you say that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel nothing he say now. But nah, you right.
Yeah.
Nah, you right. And that's what I'm saying. I know, I'm stop saying I think. I know that was what was kind of different.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you gonna come to the event, it's gonna be pretty girls there. It's the same sort of thing that draw people out to other events.
Yeah.
Right, the happening event. We was doing that built around service.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think also was crazy. I was thinking about the other day, fool, like social media, right? Like winning the hoodie award piece, right? And then I remember that's right around the time when I got on Twitter and Facebook.
I remember that period because my brother-in-law, who's much younger than me, was on a field trip. And he was still in junior high school at the time. And I was a chaperone.
Yeah.
And when we were first using Twitter to get people to retweet and vote, I was on a charter bus going to Hershey Park, like telling everybody, yo, vote for Tony, you know, hit retweet, quote, tweet, whatever, you know, that option was at that time. Like, I remember that vividly on that bus, like listening to the web version of 96.3 or whatever it may have been, right? When you were on there live talking about go vote, you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
But that's the joint I'm saying where, man, people just be living in the present. But I was thinking like, man, we through social media though, what we also did was gave people a glimpse into a world that they would never see otherwise, which also allow us to be able to get people to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna show up to that. Cause they be showing us like, yeah, that's an issue. This is going on. I want to be a part of that. You now that's sort of completely standard, right? There are like that. There's people in the world that ain't never did no real activism ever. They do it all on social media like that. But I used to be critical of that, but I understand, you know what, that is today's world, right? So,
and I'm gonna take your share, whatever share you got, I'm gonna take it.
Facts, right? Exactly. I've grown to like see that and understand the value in that, right?
Yeah.
But also, we were doing that too. I just saw that we was actually doing it every day, continue to do it like in real life as well. But we extended and furthered our cause, utilizing at that time Twitter and Facebook, right? And then on into the gram. I ain't really on TikTok like you, but I ain't get there yet. But wherever the people are though, we have to be.
Yeah.
That's, you know what I'm saying? But we was doing that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's become, you have, in terms of our conversations around strategy and intention, I think I was strategic and intentional without knowing it. You know, the wind kind of like blew that way in my mind. I just, okay, this is what it was like. This is what we should frame it this way. We should do it this way. But it was all sort of like incredibly organic. It was just like what we were doing. But it actually, like looking back, that's what we was doing though. Right? We were utilizing social media to reach people that we would never otherwise reach, and using that to galvanize and organize, right? And saying, hey, we're going to be here this date at this time, meet us there, and they did it. You know what I'm saying? That first March for Peace, bro, I don't know if what your thoughts were.
I ain't know.
But people just kept coming on that corner.
I mean, the same thing when you and Angel did the first photo shoot.
Yeah.
I rode the bike down there, and I'm like, I turned the corner, and you dressing all black now. It was a sea of all black when I turned the corner on the bike. Like, that's crazy.
I will never, that day to see on May 20th, 2018, right, the DC Native photo shoot, to see all them people, like people kept coming.
They kept coming around that corner.
I was sitting in front of the market when the first people started to arrive, and at first, I didn't even think they was there for us. And then a lady walked over, like, hey, are you Tony Lewis? I was like, yes, like, yeah, we here for the photo. And then after that, it just seemed like, you know,
kept happening.
And that I want you said something too I want to touch on real quick. You said you rode your bike over there, right?
Yeah.
I remember when we first started doing Heart of the City, you was still at ARP.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you was riding your bike then, you know what I'm saying? We meet downtown at Vapiano for pizza and all that.
That's our old life though.
Old
we don't eat like that no more. Yeah.
Look, yeah. And I'm saying, we look at clips from 10 years ago, you a whole different person, bro. Talking about what did change. You about 120 lighter, man. You know what I'm saying? And you, the thing about it though, I bring it up because you was on the bike there, working out there, you know what I'm saying? What's different mindset wise? What are you doing now that you weren't doing then?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, right? So for those who may not know, I've lost 100 pounds in the past 4 years. So the path kind of started maybe a few months after that DC or Nothing photo shoot. I mean, a big part of it is my daughter, right? And my wife as well. I had an episode at the emergency room the day before I was set to go on paternity leave. I was in a meeting at work and I felt lightheaded. And it was a standing room only meeting with like 50 people in this small conference room. I didn't have a seat. It was like an hour-long meeting. I felt myself just like going out. The meeting let out. I got some fresh air in the hallway. I told my coworkers I'm going to the ER. I barely made it to the ER. I threw up in the ER. And I came home and I looked at my wife and my daughter. And my daughter's like, at that time, maybe 2 months old. And I had to make some changes, which included starting to walk every day, which I haven't missed a day of walking at least 3 miles since June of 2019, drinking a gallon of water.
So you didn't walk to California, basically?
Basically.
You keep going, my man.
You know, modify my food. You cannot beat the kitchen. You're not going to beat the kitchen. But the mindset thing, it's important, I think, that you brought that up. Like, I read a lot more now. And people talk about you are what you eat, but I think overall you are what you consume. And the consumption is not just food, right? The music, the television shows, what you read, all of that. And I just wanted more for myself. And that's what really drives the lifestyle change, right? We used to laugh about this, but you would say, man, we gotta get in shape. We're gonna be taking pictures. We're gonna be on TV. You used to always say that. One time you and I worked out together, and I think about this a lot. We were taking turns doing an exercise with somebody. I think we was working out with Leon together.
Okay.
And it was my turn to do something, and you was like, click, click, remember, click, click. And I always think about that, like, and that's kind of superficial, but at the same time, it's like, you want to be able to market yourself a certain way, and who you are physically and mentally plays a factor in that. And they go so hand in hand that since I've had the physical transformation, because of the fact that, I eat different and drink more water, my mind is more clear, I'm more focused. I can think out ideas further than I did at that time, right? I've been able to accomplish more in the last 4 years than I did the previous 4 or 5 before that. And then this city, you walk down 8th Street, you walk down 14th Street, you walk down these places, and you see the vibrancy, right? You see the restaurants that offer better options for eating, the grocery stores that offer better offerings. And all of that made me say, man, if I want to live in this city, I got to be in tip-top shape. I remember one time I was at a barbershop uptown on like 14th and Buchanan, and they had commercial parking, right? And the parking people came to write tickets. Everybody in the barbershop ran out the barbershop to go move their cars. And somebody in the barbershop was like, man, you either got to be wealthy or you got to be healthy to live in this city. It's like 10, 15 years ago. And it was like, man, that's real. And if you got that combination, like, you in a good pocket. But if you don't have both, you got to have one. And I ain't wealthy yet, so I had to get healthy first. So, that's what it is.
We're going to do both, though. And I think part of this transformation, which in turn, and for everybody out there, like, people say you the company you keep. You know what I mean? That's what people say. Some people brush that off. But, like, it's not always about what directly how you impact the people around you. Sometimes indirectly, and when somebody, like, don't have the discipline or the strength to work on something, and they see somebody close to them working on it, it gives them that extra, like.
I mean, I give you a lot of credit, and probably like 8 to 9 other people, right? I'm a big sort of group chat guy. I'm in a bunch of different group chats. We in a couple together.
True.
But there were some people that really influenced me and pulled me to the side at different points, like, yo, you got to get it together. You're too valuable not to be here, right?
Sure.
And another thing, 2 guys that I mentor introduced me to 2 concepts that really changed my life. And, one was doing the intermittent fasting, which I had done before, but I never committed to it. And Kenny was the one who said, hey, let's try that, right? And it worked for me. And then Josh with 75 Hard, right, which is a program, right? So,
but I think that's important too. I mean, that's deep to me.
That my mentees I was able to listen to them and accept knowledge from them, right?
100%.
And that's never lost on me, ever lost on me. So that's important too.
And that's for anybody out there too that's like in a mentor role.
Yeah.
And don't be so closed off, just be so hell-bent when you giving the information.
Yeah.
You gotta be open to receiving the information, you know what I'm saying?
And I think also, I was going to touch on this, but I'm glad you brought this up, because I think the 360-degree perspective that we bring, leveraging social media, sharing our lives as husbands, fathers, professionals, you get up every morning almost and you on that bike, right? Or the pull-up bar, right? Me doing my thing on the bike or doing my walks, right? And sharing the reels every week of what I'm doing. And we go out and do those things despite the resistance, right? Whether it be cold weather, whether it be busy schedule, family, right? And I think what we've done a good job of is shown people what it is to be a 360-degree man, right? Or person, right? Just put gender to the side,
sure.
Right?
And that you ain't got to fit in no box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or whatever your box is, but your box can be a multitude of things.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about, forget like aging, like in terms of like your years, right? Your age in that way, but more like your mindset.
Yeah.
And like, because I'm 42, you 43, that we only supposed to listen to a certain kind of music or wear a certain, whatever it is. Like
I can tell you, I feel 23, 28. I've never felt this good, right? Mentally, physically, the whole nine. Like, you got a few nagging aches or whatever, but putting that aside,
yeah, I feel like I'm getting better.
yeah, that's how I feel.
Nah, for real.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
I feel like I know. I ain't gonna say I feel. I know. But I can't wait to, like, as we move this series along and talk more about that. I really want to bring, talk about 75 Hard in like detail though. You know what I'm saying? And like, what that program can do, it has done.
Yeah.
But before we, sort of close out, to me, I really want to take this opportunity to sort of, like, as we've been reflecting, who was your top 2 guests that we had?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard for me to put it down to 2. I will combine these 2 because they were on together. Garvey and One Way Booby. That was a good episode.
Free Booby.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Booby and Garvey, man. That was a good one because I think they deserve a lot of credit for paving the way for a lot of what we see in the city, in the entertainment space. And guys that's cut from what they cut from don't normally open up how they did on our platform, right? So I was happy. I watched a little bit of that video on YouTube not that long ago, and I was happy to see.
Can you talk about before they time?
Yeah.
The area wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, they wasn't doing mixtapes with DJ Drama. They was touring. Garvey was on tour with you talking about CMG. Look at what CMG is now, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about back when it was Gotti and what was dude named Zilla?
Oh yeah.
And Garvey was on tour.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, yeah. So now, for real, and those, like, that groundwork, man, is helping young people out of this area right now, bro.
Yeah. I if I had to do another one, I would probably say. I can't just pick one. I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna think.
All right, I'm gonna go. One. So you that definitely was one of my favorites, though.
The Garvey and Booby.
Facts, but when we had Delano and King.
Oh yeah, that's it. Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That was
2 War 5 candidate race.
Yeah, that was
2012. Delano Hunter.
Yeah. We
had them in studio together. Basically, it was like a debate on our show, bro.
And you know what's crazy about that? So, for those that are watching, at that time, 2012, there was a special election going on for a vacant seat in Ward 5. Kenya McDuffie and Delano Hunter were the 2 front runners for this race. And I'm setting the tone so that you understand how important this was, right? At that time, it was difficult to get 2 major candidates to come on a platform that was not the Washington Post or not Channel 9 or not a major platform at that time, right? And this was internet radio, which a lot of people didn't know about, right? They had enough respect for us to say we're going to come on here. And when we got them in the room as we prepped for the show, we said to them, this is not a debate. We just want to have a conversation. They never threw shots at each other. They walked out together. They talked. They were gentlemen, right? Yeah. And I think I always hold that moment close because it showed me the range that we had, because we asked some really, I'm not going to say tough questions, but pertinent questions, right?
Yeah.
That caused real good discourse.
Sure.
Right? And as we talk about the future of this program, that's what I want to make sure we doing now too. Getting those kind of people on here again.
No doubt. We will.
Yeah.
Going to. In my next, we're going to get them type, and we're going to also get the profile when we had Glizzy and Eon. That was another dope.
That was,
night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to think that, you got Delano Hunter, who is actually a dual director at this point.
Right.
He director of DC Parks and Recreation.
Consummate professional, right? Consummate, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, even to be able to do that in the former director of Serve DC. and King McDuffie, who's now, you've been on the city council for a decade, right? Since then.
Since that time.
Since that time. He's now an at-large council member. But yeah, we had a young Shy Glizzy, right? And Eon, who really just came home.
Yeah. And he's blossomed as well. Yeah.
The author Eon, and Eon Williams, and like, it's really, really cool to reflect on that. And we were really like trying to do our best with our platform and our audience to introduce them to them. I mean, obviously Glizzy was a bit more notable at that time, but he went much further after that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was really cool that he would take time though to come and sit with us. And also a young dude at that time, like now wasn't into doing interviews, But I always appreciated that he came and sat with us, you know what I'm saying? And we learned so much from Eon that day, you know what I'm saying, about the publishing world, about writing books, and obviously all that he brought to the table. You know what I'm saying? And so shout out to Eon. Go get Lord and Legends too. That wasn't out yet. I'm just saying, definitely shout out.
He definitely blossomed a lot.
Yeah, man.
That 10-year period. I mean, we had other guys like Ty Barnett on there, which I learned a lot about the boxing game when he came.
Ty Barnett was on there.
Yeah, a lot of people, man, that
was coming through, man. That was a special place. I was even in the house the other day, Jess was about to watch the Love and Merge thing, and to see Sherelle and Ashley on that, but they was both a part of that crew.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I was also thinking back on those times. Like, hey, man, we used to be up in the studio, because if I'm not mistaken, Sherelle came on after us, I think, or was it before us?
I think at one point they were before us, another point they were after us.
Right. Talking.
And for people that don't know, the internet radio, that format then, it was live. Right, it was live. So what you saw was what you got.
Yeah, they show used to be turned up. I used to be like, what they talking about in there? Talking there. You know what I mean? But it's like as I'm saying earlier, like that joint brought a lot of people together. I mean, but then not to mention, but it was also people that, you brought the dude in there talking about the hot stuff, and we had to do your man was abstinence.
Yep.
We just had a wide range of like conversations.
Yeah, we had a conversation about step parents. We had stepmom and a stepdad came in.
That one was tough, and I was living in that at that time.
Right.
Had that conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm excited about what we about to embark on. We gonna cover everything, and we gonna do it in a way that's what people gonna learn, what people gonna enjoy. This ain't no this ain't no news show as it relates to we gonna be talking about everything.
What's funny? My mother and my father, may God bless his soul, man, they used to call me like right after we got off, and they were just so happy. And we were talking about things, I was like, I don't know if my mother and father need to be, but they would, every time we would talk to them on the phone, or I would go by their house, and we would talk through, recap, things that we talked about on the show. And my mother had her Usher boyfriends listening to it, all this stuff. So it was a wide range of people, and everybody was pleased and satisfied and really entertained by what we would, and informed by what we would do.
For sure. Yeah. And it's the same. This gonna be just like that on steroids.
That's it.
I can't wait, man. Heart of the City, man. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Stay tuned.
Yeah. That's it, man. So bigger and better. And we going to the top.
100%. Peace and love.
Peace and love.